It was just an ordinary morning, or at least it was supposed to be. The sun peeked through the blinds, painting soft golden stripes across our kitchen floor as my daughter Lily hummed to herself, her favorite stuffed bunny clutched tightly in her tiny arms. Her wheelchair squeaked softly as she turned to show me the bow she'd tied around the bunny's ear. The same pink ribbon she insisted made it look like Mommy. Her laughter was music, innocent and untouched by the cruelty of the world. That stuffed toy wasn't just a toy. It was her comfort, her courage, her best friend. She called it Mr. Whiskers, and she never went anywhere without it. Not to school, not to therapy, not even to sleep. We were just halfway down the block when Karen appeared again, standing like a storm cloud at the edge of our neighborhood's paved path. Arms crossed, face twisted, eyes locked on the bunny. "Stop right there," she barked, loud enough that Lily flinched. I held Lily's hand tighter. "She's hiding something inside that toy," Karen snapped, pointing with trembling rage. "That's not just a stuffed animal. I know what your kind hides." The words cut like broken glass. I turned to shield my daughter, but Karen already had her purse halfway open. What I thought was another HOA violation notice turned into something I'll never forget, the cold glint of metal. I screamed before the sound of the gunshot could register. The world slowed. Then came the crack, the thunder, the roar. Lily's bunny jerked. Lily let out a high-pitched gasp, then silence. Blood. So much blood. Spilling down her shirt, soaking into her lap, into the fur of that stupid, precious bunny. For a moment, I couldn't hear anything but my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. My knees buckled. I crawled toward her, hands trembling, screaming her name, begging her to keep her eyes open. "Stay with me, baby. Please, please stay with me." Mr. Whiskers slipped from her grasp and hit the pavement with a soft thud, his pink ribbon now soaked in red. Neighbors screamed. Sirens wailed in the distance. Some ran. Some just stood frozen, mouths agape, phones recording. But no one moved fast enough. And Karen? She just stood there, gun in hand, still convinced she was right. She had to be hiding something, she said, voice flat. I was just doing my duty. Doing her duty? That day shattered my world. It broke my child's body and nearly broke her spirit. It lit a fire in me I didn't know existed. You see, my daughter is disabled, not dangerous. That toy didn't carry a weapon. It carried love, but now it carries the scars of that day. And if you're wondering how we got here, how a neighborhood dispute turned into a tragedy soaked in blood and arrogance, stay with me. Because this is the story of how a stuffed bunny became a bullet's target and how justice came knocking on the HOA's door. My name is Grace Hamilton, and before everything went dark, before gunshots echoed through our quiet cul-de-sac, I used to believe we lived in the safest place on earth. My husband Mark and I had chosen Meadowbrook for the same reasons most people do. It's clean streets, manicured lawns, good schools, and the kind of neighborly quiet that promises children a safe place to grow up. We weren't wealthy or flashy, just a working-class family who'd saved for years to give our daughter the life she deserved. Lily was born with cerebral palsy, and while that diagnosis shattered me for a time, it never broke her. She came into this world with wide blue eyes and a resilience that didn't match her tiny frame. From the moment she learned to speak, she had this fierce way of narrating her world. "Mommy, I'm not different, I'm just magic," she once said while trying to draw rainbows with her shaky little hands. And she was right. She was magic. Her wheelchair, her speech therapy, the long hospital visits, none of it dulled her spirit. If anything, it made her shine brighter. But what truly became a part of her, as essential as her braces or therapy appointments, was Mr. Whiskers, the worn-out, fluffy stuffed bunny we got her when she was just 3 years old after a difficult surgery. From that day on, he never left her side. She fed him, talked to him, even demanded we buy a child-sized scarf to match hers, because as she said, bunnies get cold too, Mom. Mr. Whiskers wasn't just a toy. He was her coping mechanism, her confidence, her imaginary twin who understood her when the world didn't. Life in Meadowbrook on the surface was everything we wanted annual block parties, kids riding bikes until the streetlights flickered on, and a homeowners association that promised order, safety, and structure. At first, we welcomed it. After all, who doesn't want clean sidewalks and a neighborhood watch? But beneath the surface, that structure was rigid, sometimes cruel, and often enforced by the unyielding grip of a woman named Karen Winslow. Karen was the president of the HOA, a woman who wore press khakis like armor and strutted around with a clipboard that carried more weight than most legal warrants. She had no children of her own, no softness in her tone, and no understanding of nuance. Everything with Karen was black or white rules or violations permitted or punished. Her obsession with standards went beyond lawn heights and paint colors. She once cited a family for having a pink flamingo lawn ornament, one flamingo, claiming it disrupted the visual integrity of the community. That was Karen in a nutshell: order at any cost, and God help you if you broke the mold. We tried to keep our distance at first. Mark, being a firefighter, often worked overnight shifts and didn't interact with the neighbors much. I worked part-time as a special needs teacher, and while I wanted Lily to experience the world, I also protected her fiercely from it. Still, Karen always found ways to intrude. The first incident came innocently enough. She approached us after a neighborhood cookout, her thin smile stretched taut across her face as she asked if Lily really needed the wheelchair on the grass during games. You know, it messes up the lawn, she added in a whisper that wasn't quiet enough. I was stunned. I didn't know what to say. Mark, ever the diplomat, put his arm around my shoulder and gently steered me away. Don't engage, he said. People like her want to fight. So we didn't. We let it go. We let a lot of things go. The notes left in our mailbox about Lily's noisy therapy sessions, the citation we got for the ramp mark built by hand, and the way Karen would glare at Lily as if she were somehow breaking the unwritten rule of looking too different. But we had no idea just how deep her control issues ran. Lily, despite it all, loved our neighborhood. She made friends with the children on the block, especially Ava and Miles, who came over almost every afternoon to play on our porch and pretend the wheelchair was a spaceship. She'd laugh so hard her face would turn red, and she always made sure Mr. Whiskers had a seatbelt on before takeoff. The neighborhood kids accepted her in a way the grown-ups didn't. They didn't care that she walked with braces or spoke slower than others. To them, Lily was just Lily, and that innocence kept us going. We decorated our porch every Halloween with her favorite theme, Princess Pirates. We strung up twinkly lights at Christmas, even though Karen sent a passive-aggressive email about uniform color schemes, and we watched Lily grow stronger each year in body and spirit. We had hope. We had peace. Until the day Karen claimed something was wrong with Mr. Whiskers. It started as a bizarre rumor. Karen told another HOA board member that she'd noticed something suspicious about Lily's stuffed toy. At the time, it seemed so laughable we didn't even take it seriously. But then we noticed Karen watching Lily, not in a concerned or curious way, but with suspicion. She'd squint every time Lily passed by, as if she were waiting to catch her in a crime. One afternoon, I saw Karen crouched in her garden, pretending to trim hedges while Lily rolled past on the sidewalk, Mr. Whiskers in her lap. It gave me chills. I told Mark about it that night, and he furrowed his brow in concern. She's fixating, he said. That's not normal. But what could we do? Karen was the HOA. Every complaint went through her. Every voice had to pass her desk. She had the community under her thumb, and no one dared cross her. Most saw her as overbearing but harmless, a control freak, sure, but certainly not dangerous. We told ourselves the same lie, until it was too late. There were small warnings we should have paid more attention to. Karen stopped acknowledging Lily at all. Where once she gave tight-lipped nods, now she crossed the street entirely to avoid her. She filed another HOA complaint, this time about Lily's unlicensed medical equipment in public view, referring to the customized cup holder on her wheelchair that held her juice box. And then came the confrontation. We were walking to the mailbox one Saturday morning when Karen stormed out of her home, clipboard in hand, demanding to know what was inside Mr. Whiskers. I've lived here long enough to know when something's being hidden, she barked. I know you people think you're above the rules, but this is a neighborhood, not a circus. I was stunned. Lily clutched the bunny tighter, eyes wide with fear. I stood between them and said, "He's a stuffed toy, Karen. Are you serious right now?" She didn't blink, just stared, as if trying to see through the fabric, as if Mr. Whiskers was some kind of Trojan horse. That night, I barely slept. I kept playing it over in my head. Her words, her tone, the way she looked at Lily like she wasn't a child at all but a threat. Something shifted inside me. I began keeping the doors locked even in daylight. Mark made sure the security cameras were recording 24/7. And Lily, though we tried to shield her, started asking questions. "Why does Miss Karen hate my bunny?" she whispered one night, tears clinging to her lashes. I had no answer. I just kissed her forehead and held her while she cried, wishing I could protect her from the cruelty of people too blind to see the beauty in difference. That was our life before. A life where the danger didn't come from dark alleys or broken cities, but from across the street. A life where a stuffed toy became the center of suspicion. A life where rules mattered more than compassion, and a little girl's innocence was twisted into something grotesque by one woman's need to control everything she didn't understand. We didn't know it yet, but we were on the edge of something unthinkable, and the last thread holding our piece together was stitched inside Mr. Whiskers. Shattered peace doesn't begin with explosions. Sometimes it starts with a stare, a whisper, a clipboard, and a woman named Karen. It started like a bad joke, so ridiculous at first that we laughed about it over dinner. One of our neighbors, a kind, older man named Mr. Randall, sheepishly told us that Karen had been making rounds at the HOA meeting talking about contraband being trafficked through toys. Mark chuckled. I rolled my eyes. "Please tell me she didn't mean Mr. Whiskers," I said, but Mr. Randall's face was dead serious. "She's been pointing out Lily," he said, his voice low. "She said her bunny looks bulky, like something could be stitched inside." I felt my blood freeze. 1,000 thoughts rushed through my mind, but none louder than how could someone even think this way about a child, about my daughter? Mark stood up furious. "That woman's lost her damn mind," he snapped, pacing. "We thought it would stop there, that surely even Karen had some limit to her madness. But we were wrong." A letter came the next morning. HOA letterhead, black ink, a typed statement requesting that we submit any personal property regularly transported through communal areas for inspection upon reasonable suspicion of policy violation. No names were mentioned, but the implication was clear. They wanted to search Mr. Whiskers. I held the letter in my hands, staring at it as if it were written in another language. "She's trying to search our daughter's stuffed toy," I whispered, "like it's a weapon." I marched down to the HOA office, a converted garage attached to Karen's home, and demanded to speak to someone with common sense. I was met with a closed door, a voice through the intercom saying the issue was under review. No apology, no clarification, just bureaucratic stonewalling. The next few days were a blur of whispered stares, neighbors who no longer waved back, and Karen striding down the block like she was on patrol, sunglasses gleaming, phone in hand. Lily didn't understand any of it. We told her people were confused, but kids aren't stupid. She knew something was wrong. She started clutching Mr. Whiskers even tighter. Her smile faded a little more each day. Then came the incident that changed everything. It was a Thursday afternoon. Clear skies. Lily wanted to roll down to the neighborhood park to meet Ava and Miles. I was watching from the porch, sipping iced tea, when I saw Karen walking toward her from the opposite side. She wasn't alone. She had another HOA member with her, a younger man I didn't recognize, holding what looked like a clipboard and a handheld scanner. I stood up immediately. "Lily, come back," I shouted, already heading down the steps, but I wasn't fast enough. Karen intercepted her. "Excuse me," she said with a sickly sweet tone that barely masked her contempt. "I need to check that toy." Lily looked up confused. "Mr. Whiskers?" she asked innocently. Karen reached forward. "I said I need to see it." And just like that, she grabbed it, snatched it out of Lily's lap. My daughter screamed. Not cried, not whimpered, screamed, a sound so raw and panicked that my heart dropped into my stomach. I ran like I was on fire, reached them just as Lily was sobbing, trying to reach for her bunny, and Karen was turning it over in her hands like it was a bomb. What the hell do you think you're doing? I shouted, "Give that back right now." Karen didn't flinch. "You're harboring suspicious materials in public view. The HOA has a right to inspect. It's a stuffed animal." I yelled, grabbing it from her hands. "She's a child, Karen." The man beside her mumbled something about following protocol, but he looked nervous, like even he knew this had gone too far. I took Lily home in tears that day, shaking with fury. We filed a complaint with the police, the city council, the mayor's office. And you know what we got? Silence. Shrugs. Excuses. It's a civil matter. We don't interfere in HOA affairs. There's no physical harm. No physical harm, they said. Tell that to my daughter, who wouldn't sleep that night, who kept waking up crying, who started refusing to go outside at all. Mr. Whiskers, once a source of joy, now clutched in fear. Every day after that, I expected Karen to calm down, to feel shame, to step back, but instead she doubled down. She sent another HOA violation, this time claiming we allowed threats to the community to persist. Neighbors stopped talking to us. Someone keyed Mark's car. Another sent an anonymous note saying, "We don't want people like you here." It was as if Karen had poisoned the entire street against us, and no matter how loud we screamed, the authorities stayed deaf. Then came that morning, July 18th. I remember because it was supposed to be a good day. Lily's checkup at the hospital showed improvement in her leg tone, and we planned to get ice cream after. She wore her favorite dress, a pale blue one with flowers embroidered near the collar. And Mr. Whiskers? Of course, he came along. He always did. We were just rolling out of the driveway when Karen appeared, blocking the path like she'd been waiting. Her face was different this time, harder. Not suspicious, not arrogant, but resolved. "I warned you," she said coldly. "You brought this on yourselves." I stepped in front of Lily and told her to go back up the ramp. She hesitated. "Mommy?" Then I saw Karen's hand go into her bag. I thought it was another notice. I prayed it was just another notice. But when she pulled out the gun, I swear, time stopped. My scream got stuck in my throat. I turned to Lily, my legs moving in slow motion, but I was too late. One pull of a trigger, one shot, one flash, and the world we knew was gone. The sun was barely filtering through the thick clouds that morning, casting everything in a pale, uneasy light. It was the kind of morning where the air hangs heavy, like the sky itself knows something is about to go wrong. I remember brushing Lily's hair at the kitchen table while she giggled, feeding cereal to Mr. Whiskers, and insisting he was hungry too. Her innocence so radiant, so pure, had this way of making you believe everything would be okay, even when the world was doing its best to prove otherwise. She was wearing her favorite hoodie, the one with the cartoon kittens riding bicycles, and insisted Mr. Whiskers wear his scarf, too. "He gets nervous when it's cloudy," she told me seriously, "and if it rains, he needs his lucky bow." So I tied it gently around his floppy neck, adjusting the ears like I always did, and then we were off, her little wheels squeaking as we made our way down the street, just 2 houses away from the corner, where we'd catch the accessible shuttle to her therapy appointment. We were humming a silly song together, something about a jelly bean parade, when I noticed Karen. She was standing near the end of her driveway, arms crossed, lips pinched tight, not gardening, not walking her dog, just waiting. Her eyes locked onto Lily, or more accurately, onto Mr. Whiskers, like a hawk watching prey. I felt my stomach knot instantly. I whispered to Lily to keep looking forward, to not stop, and I placed my hand on the back of her wheelchair, ready to push her past. But just as we were about to pass her driveway, Karen stepped into our path. "Stop right there," she barked, her voice slicing the air like a blade. Lily jerked, startled, clutching Mr. Whiskers to her chest. "We're late for therapy, Karen," I said firmly, already moving around her, but she stepped forward again, blocking us. "I've had enough of this," she spat. "You people think you can just ignore the rules. smuggling who knows what through this neighborhood in toys. I'm not stupid. My mouth fell open. Karen, it's a stuffed animal. It's her comfort toy. You're harassing a disabled child. She ignored me, eyes glued to the bunny. I've reported it. No one's doing anything. So now I will. Her hand darted into her oversized leather bag. For a split second, I thought it was another violation letter, some bogus citation. But when her hand came out, it was holding a small black handgun. I froze. Everything slowed. The world dimmed around the edges. Karen, I said, voice trembling, what are you doing? But she didn't look at me. She looked at Lily, a 6-year-old in a pink wheelchair, and she raised the gun. No one's hiding anything in my neighborhood, she hissed. The next second, it happened faster than thought. A bang. A thunderous, cracking explosion that tore through the morning air. The gun recoiled in her hand. Mr. Whiskers jolted. And then Lily's face twisted in shock, in confusion, and then in pain. She screamed. A high-pitched, blood-curdling scream I will never unhear. Blood soaked the front of her hoodie like spilled paint. The bunny slipped from her arms, landing face down on the concrete. I lunged for her, grabbing her as she slumped sideways in her wheelchair. My hands were instantly slick with blood. Lily! I screamed, my throat ripping. Stay with me. Baby, stay awake. Neighbors emerged from porches. Some ran forward. Some froze. Some just stood there with their phones. I remember someone vomiting. I remember the sound of my own, sobbing, broken, and feral. I pressed my hand to the wound, her abdomen, blood pouring between my fingers. Someone call an ambulance. I screamed again. Please, please. Lily's tiny hand tried to grip mine, but it was shaking, slipping. Her lips were pale. Her eyes were glassing over. Karen? She didn't run. She didn't drop the weapon. She just stood there, arms now limp at her sides, staring at Lily like she was disappointed the bunny hadn't exploded. I told you, she muttered, not to me, not to anyone, just to herself. I warned them. She had something inside. The sirens came soon, faster than I expected. Red and blue danced across our quiet street. Officers with drawn weapons told Karen to drop the gun. She did, slowly. No resistance. No remorse. They tackled her. Handcuffed her. She didn't fight. She didn't even look scared. Just smug. At the hospital, everything was blur and beep and chaos. They rushed Lily into surgery. I wasn't allowed in. I was covered in blood, shaking uncontrollably. Mark arrived halfway through the operation, his uniform still half on, his face a blend of rage and devastation. He collapsed to the floor when he saw me. What happened? What happened? He begged. She shot her, I whispered. She aimed at Mr. Whiskers and she shot her. Hours passed, maybe days. I don't even remember sleeping. The doctors said the bullet grazed her stomach, but missed vital organs. She's lucky, they said. Lucky? My daughter was in the ICU with tubes in her nose and IVs in her arms because a neighbor thought her bunny was a bomb. What kind of world does that happen in? The police came to take our statements. The media showed up. News vans lined our street within 24 hours. Disabled girl shot in HOA confrontation. The headlines read, "Community stunned by tragedy." But behind the cameras, behind the outrage, the truth was uglier. Karen's lawyer argued that she feared for the safety of the neighborhood. He claimed she'd received anonymous tips about suspicious activity involving the family. They painted Lily as a potential pawn in some kind of bizarre domestic terrorism fantasy. A child, in a wheelchair, with a stuffed toy. The HOA? They released a statement that distanced themselves from Karen entirely. We had no knowledge of her intentions. It said, "We do not condone violence." But they never addressed the letters, the citations, the harassment. They wiped their hands clean like it had all come out of nowhere, like this woman hadn't been spiraling for months. A few neighbors gave interviews expressing shock. She always seemed so strict but nice. Others? Silent, complicit, avoidant. Some even sided with her. She thought she was doing the right thing, one neighbor said. She must have felt threatened. Threatened by what? A bunny in a child's lap? I sat by Lily's hospital bed for days, holding her hand as she drifted in and out of sleep. Her voice was weak. She asked about Mr. Whiskers. I didn't have the heart to tell her he was taken into evidence, stuffed into a plastic evidence bag by a gloved hand, his fluffy chest torn by a bullet hole. I just kissed her forehead and said, "He's resting too, baby, just like you." She nodded slowly, and then her voice, barely a whisper, asked, "Did I do something wrong?" That shattered me. We got hundreds of messages online. Some were supportive, others were venomous. Shouldn't have let your kid roll around with a suspicious object. Why didn't you control your child? You're lucky she's alive. Stop crying victim. I turned off the internet. We stopped answering the door. We lived in silence, grief, and fear, all while Karen sat in a jail cell awaiting trial. No apology, no remorse. Her lawyer filed for bail and got it. She walked free within a week, under house arrest, which ironically meant she was just a few blocks away. The police couldn't do more, they said. She hadn't been convicted. Not yet. The DA dragged the case forward. Delays, hearings, technicalities. Karen's defense leaned on mental instability. She wasn't herself. She feared an attack. They paraded false claims, fake witness statements, even suggesting I had encouraged Lily to provoke Karen. The courtroom was a circus. And Lily? She had to testify, in a wheelchair, in front of the woman who shot her. She was brave. She clutched Mr. Whiskers, patched and returned to us, and told the court what happened in her own words. "I just wanted to go play," she said. "She said my bunny was bad, but he's not. He's my friend. He helps me when I'm scared. I don't know why she hurt me." Silence fell over the courtroom. Even the judge looked shaken. But Karen? She didn't even blink. That night, Lily had nightmares. She woke up screaming. Every shadow was a threat. Every knock on the door sent her under the blanket. I stayed up with her, sat in the dark holding her, trying to hold in my own rage and despair, trying not to scream at the universe for how unfair it all was. My daughter had nearly died, and the world just kept spinning. People forgot. News cycles moved on. But we didn't. We lived it. We bled for it. And even now, as I write this, I still see Lily's face when she flinched at the sound of a dropped fork. I see her instinctively pulling Mr. Whiskers closer, like he might shield her from another bullet. Karen's trial was set for months later. Until then, we fought. We fought for justice, for safety, for recognition. We started petitions, held press conferences, told our story again and again until anyone would listen, not just for Lily, but for every family who ever had to fear the people living next door, for every child whose innocence was twisted by paranoia and hate. Because what happened to us wasn't just about a gunshot. It was about a system that let Karen become what she did. It was about neighbors who stayed silent, about laws that protect perpetrators in the name of procedure, about a stuffed bunny that became a symbol of how far ignorance can go unchecked. And most of all, it was about a little girl who never asked for any of this, who just wanted to play with her friends, who just wanted to be a kid, and who paid the price for an adult's madness. I wasn't going to let it end in silence, not after what Karen had done, not after the smears, the lies, the subtle neighborhood gaslighting that tried to make us question our own pain. Lily had survived, but survival wasn't justice. So we did what scared people rarely do. We fought back, openly, legally, relentlessly. We hired a civil rights attorney named Maya Sterling, a woman who had made a name suing municipalities that failed children with disabilities. From the moment she stepped into our kitchen with her laptop and sharp, unshaken voice, something shifted. "This wasn't just an attack on your daughter," she said. "It was an attack on accountability, on decency, on truth. So let's make noise." And we did. We filed a federal lawsuit against Karen for aggravated assault and emotional damages. But we didn't stop there. Maya helped us build a case against the HOA itself for enabling her, for ignoring our complaints, for creating a hostile environment under the false pretense of order. Our neighbors whispered behind curtains. Some sent anonymous messages of support. Others deleted their social media and pretended they hadn't spent the last year nodding at Karen's every rule. The HOA went into panic mode. Their lawyer responded with a blanket denial. They claimed Karen had acted independently, that her actions did not reflect HOA values, as if Karen hadn't been HOA. But Maya was meticulous. We subpoenaed every HOA meeting note, every complaint logged, every email exchange between board members. And that's when it began to unravel. We found handwritten complaints from Karen that dated back months before the shooting, referencing Lily, labeling her a risk to the neighborhood, suggesting that we were testing boundaries. Even worse, notes in the margins, check marks, agreements. They knew. They had seen the warning signs and said nothing. They let her spiral into delusion, and Lily paid the price. When this came out, local news stations started circling. But it wasn't until a national morning show requested to interview me and Lily that everything changed. I hesitated at first. Lily was still recovering emotionally and physically. But when I asked her, she surprised me. If I talk, she said, will it stop her from hurting someone else? I nodded. Then I want to. The interview aired on a Tuesday morning. Lily sat beside me, holding a new stuffed toy, a gentle-looking lion named Courage that Maya had gifted her. She wore a lavender dress, and she spoke softly but clearly. She told me my bunny was bad, Lily said, but he wasn't. He was my best friend. Her words weren't rehearsed. They didn't need to be. America listened. The backlash was immediate. Headlines turned from neighborhood altercation to systemic failure. Politicians issued statements. Disability advocates rallied behind us. Suddenly, we weren't just a tragic story. We were a movement. When the trial began, Karen's team tried every trick. They played the mental health card. They blamed misinformation, tried to spin it like she was caught in a paranoid delusion exacerbated by stress. But it fell flat. The jury watched the hospital footage of Lily. They saw the blood-stained wheelchair. They heard the audio from a neighbor's Ring doorbell. Karen's voice, sharp and cold, saying she had something inside. It was undeniable. But the true turning point came when Maya unearthed Karen's disciplinary record from her prior job, a now-defunct private security firm. 2 former co-workers testified, anonymously at first, then publicly. One revealed that Karen had previously confronted a young autistic boy in a grocery store because she thought he was stealing candy. She grabbed his arm and threatened to call the police. Charges were dropped. It had been settled quietly. Another revealed that she had been terminated for escalating nonviolent situations into dangerous ones. When that was presented in court, the jury's mood shifted. Karen, once the portrait of community control, was now exposed as a pattern, a danger wrapped in a badge of authority. And then came Lily's testimony. She rolled to the witness stand slowly, Mr. Courage in her lap. The courtroom hushed. The judge offered to excuse her from questioning, but she shook her head. I want to tell the truth. Her voice was soft, but every word echoed. I didn't hide anything, she said. She didn't ask what was inside. She just pointed and shot. The room went still. Jurors looked away, blinking tears. Karen refused to make eye contact. When asked what she wanted now, Lily said, I want her to say sorry. And I want other kids to know that it's okay to be different. You don't deserve to get hurt just for being you. Karen never apologized. She sat stone-faced through it all. But the verdict? Swift. Guilty on multiple counts. Assault with a deadly weapon, reckless endangerment, and hate-motivated intimidation under the state's civil rights laws. She was sentenced to 15 years. No parole for at least 10. The courtroom erupted in hushed relief. Some cheered quietly. I cried. Mark cried. Lily, she just smiled and said, Can we go get ice cream now? But the story wasn't over. The fallout spread like wildfire. The HOA was sued in civil court and lost, forced to pay damages and legally restructure. Every board member who had signed off on Karen's complaints was removed. A third-party administrator was brought in. And me? I was invited to speak before our state legislature. I told them how unchecked power in neighborhood associations can lead to tragedy. I told them about the lack of safeguards for families with disabilities. I read them Lily's words. I just wanted to play. That line is now part of a proposed bill, Lily's Law, that would prevent HOA officials from initiating confrontations with minors or entering physical disputes without verified third-party mediation. We got calls from across the country. Other families came forward. Stories of HOA harassment, bullying, silence. Lily unknowingly became a symbol, not just of survival, but of change. And while we'd never wanted that, never asked for the spotlight, we knew it mattered. In the end, we moved out of Meadowbrook. We couldn't stay where the shadows were too thick. But we didn't run. We chose somewhere new, somewhere quieter. Lily now volunteers with a therapy group, helping other kids with disabilities express themselves through storytelling and plush animal play. She still carries Mr. Courage. And once in a while, she takes out Mr. Whiskers, patched, faded, forever loved, and places him on her shelf like a trophy. Karen may have fired the shot, but the world saw what we saw, that her hate, her obsession with control, was never about rules. It was about fear, about power, and in the end, it was powerless against the truth. Because no matter how loud the lies are, nothing is stronger than a little girl's voice telling the truth in court with a lion in her lap, and the whole world finally listening. Healing didn't come quickly. It never does, not after something like that. We left Meadowbrook 2 months after the trial ended. The moving truck pulled away from the curb, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't look back. We settled in a quieter town 2 hours away, where the HOA was just a name on paper, not a weapon in someone's hands. Our new neighbors brought us cookies. One family even helped install the ramp before we moved in. There was no clipboard, no rules whispered like threats, just people, kind, simple people, and a little girl with a lion in her lap who needed to believe in good again. Lily changed after the shooting, not in the way you'd expect, not withdrawn or angry, but deeper, older somehow. She asked bigger questions about fear, about fairness, about why someone would see her as dangerous just because she needed wheels to move. Some nights, she'd wake up crying, clutching Mr. Courage like he was a shield. Other nights, she'd ask if we could visit the park just to sit and watch other kids play, like a quiet rebellion against fear. With time, she started smiling again. She painted her wheelchair with glitter and stars. She made a superhero cape for Mr. Whiskers. He's a warrior now, she said proudly. He protected me. I started writing. At first just to cope, messy, tear-stained pages, but then it turned into something else. A story, a voice, a way to keep the world from forgetting. Mark went back to work slowly. His captain gave him time. His co-workers raised money to help with Lily's therapy. The community, the right community, stood with us. And Lily? She began speaking at schools. At first just her class, then assemblies, then other districts invited her. She'd roll up to the mic, smile, and say, "I'm Lily. I got shot because someone was scared of my bunny. But I'm not scared anymore." Her courage, her honesty, lit something in every room she entered. We created a foundation, Whiskers for Hope, named after the stuffed bunny that took a bullet meant for fear. It provides emotional support toys to kids with disabilities and trains HOAs and schools on inclusion and empathy. Lily's story reached places we never imagined: podcasts, newspapers, disability advocacy boards. She even met the governor, who told her she was braver than most adults I know. And she was, but some days were still hard. The scar on her belly never fully faded. The nightmares came and went. Sometimes a slammed door or a loud shout would send her hands trembling. Trauma doesn't leave politely. It lingers, but so does healing. And day by day, she found more of herself again. We took her to the beach that summer. She laughed as the waves hit her tires. She built a sandcastle with Mr. Courage perched like a king on top. She called it Fort Peace. Karen remained in prison. We heard she filed appeals, none were granted. She never wrote, never apologized, but it didn't matter anymore. Because we were no longer defined by what she did to us, we were defined by how we rose after. And now, whenever Lily tells her story, she ends it with this: sometimes people see different as scary. But it's not. It's just different. And sometimes bunnies are heroes. If you've stayed with us this far, thank you. Not just for watching, but for listening, truly listening to what happened and why it matters. This wasn't just a story about a neighborhood. It wasn't just about an HOA president who lost control or a stuffed toy that became a target. This was about something deeper, the quiet ways people with power abuse it when no one's watching, the subtle cruelty that hides behind policy, the danger of turning fear into law. My daughter didn't deserve what happened to her. No child does. But what she taught me and what I hope she's taught you is that even in our darkest moments, even when it feels like the system is rigged, we still have a voice. We still have a choice. We can speak, we can fight, and we can change things. Whether you're a parent, a teacher, a neighbor, or someone who just stumbled across this video by chance, ask yourself, what would you have done if this were your child? What would you want your community to be like? Because silence is its own kind of violence, and the moment we stop standing up for each other, we've already lost. So share this story. Talk about it. Don't let it disappear like another headline. Let it spark something. Because there are families out there right now, just like ours, who are still afraid to speak. Afraid to be different. Afraid to exist in neighborhoods that don't make room for them. But we can be the ones who open the door, who say, "You're welcome here, as you are." And if you ever feel like no one's listening, come back here. This space, this channel is built for truth, for real stories, for justice. My name is Grace. I'm a mother. I'm a fighter. And I'm not done speaking. This was our story. And this is just the beginning. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to HOA Denied Access, where silence ends and justice begins.